when you're thinking about couple stuff, that workshop we did where people you will get a lot out of it if we did a workshop on this podcast on couples and how we bring our bags in. I did it yesterday in session
Yeah.
and the baggage that we bring. And the couples really got a lot out of it. I talked about you and I doing that. Hey Shannon,
Hi, Chico.
how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really glad to be back doing this.
I am too. It's been a while. We did kind of a practice run.
We did a little quickie 30-minute episode so that we could kind of get our equipment sorted and tell people that we're going to come back.
I
I
know, and I think we have, a plan. Before we had a plan, we were trying to market, old treatment centers we had.
yeah,
But now I do believe you and I really have a plan of what people need.
yes, cuz we've been doing coaching, counseling, all kinds of couple stuff, individual stuff. We've done so much that it's like I'm dying to get this stuff out there with you.
I know, and I would when you're thinking about couple stuff, that workshop we did where people you will get a lot out of it if we did a workshop on this podcast on couples and how we bring our bags in. I did it yesterday in session
Yeah,
and the baggage that we bring.
yeah, it's good.
And the couples really got a lot out of it. I talked about you and I doing that.
Yeah, but I guess, I know what we're gonna start with, and so I think we need to start with the baseline.
The baseline, what we believe and what you will believe too. If you're listening to this, you will get something out of this. What we are going to talk about is our feelings and our thoughts
Yes.
and what that does.
We're gonna mainly talk about our feelings, though. Feelings.
Yes, we
Starting
are
with
going to
feelings.
we're going to talk about our feelings, but I think a lot of times we think our thoughts drive our feelings, but I really believe our feelings drive our thoughts.
Yes, I would agree, but, people don't know what feelings are.
No, they get them confused all the time.
Yeah, so are you gonna talk a little bit about feelings?
Yeah, what do you think being a woman as a woman, what comes to mind when you hear the word feelings?
Um, what comes to mind and see, I've done a lot of work on this, so it's hard to go back to kind of originally what came to mind and what comes to mind now because
Well, if you pause for a second, what originally comes to mind?
well, that's what I'm doing is I'm pausing, trying to figure out what originally comes to mind.
All right, I like that.
Okay, so, originally, I would say feelings that caused a reaction in me. Okay, so, and I used to think that things like frustration were feelings.
Yes.
Okay.
That's probably one of the most common words associated with the word feeling or feelings is like, "I'm frustrated."
Yes.
But frustrated could mean so many different feelings.
Well, right. I mean, even our youngest, when he was little, and he had language pretty earlier, and a lot of it, he would say, if I would get agitated in the car or something, he would say, "Mom, why are you so frustrated?" And I was like, "How does he even know that word?" But that was my main feeling. What I thought was my main feeling probably was frustration with life, everything. Frustrated not being able to sleep, frustrated not being able to you know, get things done, frustrated with work, frustrated with, whatever. I mean, it was just a main feeling. That's what I thought of when I thought of feelings.
Yes, and see, most people do, that's not uncommon. I have my good friend, he had back surgery last week, and he talked about how he had the most incredible pain as a 68-year-old man he's ever had. He goes, "On the pain scale, we know the feeling of pain. If you have physical pain," he was in such physical pain that he went to the emergency room and they did emergency back surgery on him because He couldn't sit down, he couldn't lie down, he couldn't walk. I mean, there was all this pain, and he had I don't know, I'll mess it up, S4 and L3 or something like that, some nerve damage. We know what pain feels like. That's a feeling, pain. That same thing with pain as it relates to emotions.
Yeah, but I mean, even you would say that the pain chart, and the vital signs when you're in the hospital and they say, talk about your level of pain, it's very subjective. Like it's very hard to quantify pain. I mean, when you're feeling it.
Yes.
It's a feeling, and when you feeling it.
And if I wasn't making sense right there, it's like we were talking about frustration and then I switched to pain right then.
Yes.
And so what I was saying is frustration be actual pain, emotional or physical pain?
Well, sure. I'm not sure where you're going with that.
Well, what I'm trying to say is we people have a hard time identifying their feelings. And so we know that physical pain has a reaction in the body. It affects you and you it can be debilitating like my friend. Um, Frustration could be a number of things. It could be pain. We know if you see a scary movie or someone jumps behind the corner, you get fearful. That fear is real, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but okay, when people say, "How do you feel?" Uh, you can say afraid,
Mhm.
okay? But, you don't and I think this is true for everyone, not just women, but you asked me specifically about women, but, when are you aren't often asked, "Oh, identify your feeling," if you're in a horror movie, somebody's not sitting there going, "How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling right now?" You just know that you're afraid. How do you know? Your heartbeat rate goes up, skin can kinda tingle. I mean, literally, I can get, like you can get, like, shock waves, down your body, but people aren't sitting there and then if you're crying, if you are, like, tears, they can be tears of joy, they can be tears of sadness, but when people say if you're crying and people are saying, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" They're not asking you how you're feeling, they're just asking you if you're okay. And so what's the most common I'll go ahead and twist it on you. What would be the most common answer to, "Are you okay?"
I'm fine.
"I'm fine."
And what does fine mean?
Okay, well, so you have an acronym for that, but,
Yeah, a lot of people have acronyms for it, uh, forget it, insecure, neurotic, and emotional, or F it, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
right, but still, if you think about that, like, if you're moving through life and you're crying and somebody says, "Are you okay?" You say, "I'm fine." You're still not identifying your feelings. You're not saying, "I'm sad," or "I'm just so happy that my son got into his college of choice," or whatever it is that is bringing you joy, or that my husband got a clean scan. And you're crying and because you're joyful about it. And so I think that, we get confused as to having a language around feelings. And then we end up we feel them, we have a physical reaction generally with every feeling. There's a physical something that happens in our body, right? Um, whether that's quantifiable. Is that a right word?
Quantifiable is the right word.
Yeah, like a heart rate or, tears or, nervous system, shock, uh, all those things that go along with feelings. There's an actual physical thing, but when you are, just saying, "I'm fine," what are you doing? You're just, like, shoveling those feelings and keeping them inside. You're not really identifying them.
Yeah, and a lot of times you're not identifying them because the question, "Are you okay?" I like how you asked it. Uh, and you're seeing a person cry. The other person, when they ask that question, lots of times they're having some feelings about your feelings. And so they don't even know how to identify their feelings and be present with your feelings. So if you look at feelings, you and I really try to sum it up and keep it pretty simple for people to identify what they're feeling and then to really understand those feelings. Like what we said to begin with, pain. When you have physical pain, we know what physical pain feels like. We know what fear feels like if you're scared at a movie or if someone scares you or you're driving down the road and someone pulls in front of you and you almost get in a wreck. That's a scary feeling.
Right. But what does that feel like? Yeah.
And so that
Physical.
it's a physical reaction
Right.
internally where your heart rate goes up. All of a sudden, your senses are, uh, you know, on overdrive, hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
And so the fear happens that way on those kind of incidents. But we could be fearful about a conversation with someone. We can all of a sudden, before we even have the conversation, we could be fearful about what they might say or how they might react. And so that fear, in a way, it becomes that driver in our life.
Right. Well, and then it comes down to that for a woman, I think, like, talking about being a woman of my age and doing the whole perimenopause, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause talk that is all the rage as it should be right now. I mean, it's like all of a sudden this light is being shown on women's health and it needed to be. But all of a sudden we can identify our feelings better than we ever have been able to because our physical symptoms are so enhanced. Rapid heart rate, um, the shortness of breath, tears, emotional, um, instability, emotionally, all of those things are
What can I ask you a
so
question as a
uncertain.
right there? It's like, what I think you've gotten through the perimenopause stage, but I remember sitting in bed with you and perimenopause stage and our house it's cool. I mean, it's like 68 degrees and all of a sudden you go, I am burning up. And I go, it's so cold here. And what you said to me, you had these feelings. You're going, I am burning from the inside out.
Yes,
And so it's like,
hot flashes.
yes.
But the point I'm trying to make is that when we are, um, young women, um, and trying to make our way, we're the messages that we receive are too numerous to even talk about, but, some of the messages I received, were, "You should get your teaching certification because that's the best insurance policy." So, I was nervous about going into a line of work that I didn't necessarily feel I was a teacher, for a time period, and I had a lot of feelings about that when I was really drawn.
What was the feeling of nervous now that you've done some work and understand feelings now? So that was like prior to doing some of your own work. It's easy to say frustrated or nervous. I mean, those are kind of catch-alls.
Well, yeah, I mean,
What was the
I at the time, I just thought I was nervous and frustrated, and you're like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." You're not gonna show that everything's not okay. I mean, why wouldn't it be okay? And then you don't wanna be seen as weak or whatever, and those aren't, uh, feelings necessarily either. It's easy to say, "Well, I'm strong and, I'm courageous," and whatever, but those aren't.
so what was the
So, what I'm saying is that but to chunk it down, it was fear of, and, a little, um, sadness and a grief kind of way that maybe I wasn't doing what I was meant to do, um, which can be a frustration. It's like, I'm frustrated with the world. I'm frustrated with the patriarchy in this world that I can't do this job, there's blame, 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 and then you're not and then you're
And
like,
so, but there was these
"Fine."
feelings underneath all that blame, all
Yes.
that nervousness, all that frustration. So going back to that question I had, as a woman, what did you think about feelings? Were what you thought about feelings, was it frustrated? Was it nervous? Is that what you thought feelings were?
Oh, well, n no, I see what I thought you were asking me to identify the feelings that instead of frustration and nervousness and whatever, but, I mean, I think it was, I saw, all the feelings as negative,
All of them is negative. So right there,
like I shouldn't have them.
you shouldn't have them. So feelings, if you looked at them, and so you were thinking more of like fear or pain or anger or shame or guilt or loneliness or even joy as negative emotions.
Right, I mean, you can even have, like, a survivor's guilt sort of, mentality or, um, I don't know if this applies to a man, but if you know, I don't know if you know what I mean by, like, survivor's guilt or, like, having not just when somebody passes and then you're still here, I'm talking about, like, I got through, I'm in my dream job, and other people aren't, and you have roommates or friends that are really struggling. I mean, even, uh so I don't know what you call it, it's not really survivor's guilt, but I mean, even if, like, I have a child and I have a friend that is really struggling to have a child. As a woman, you feel guilty
Okay, so
and
that's a
shame,
feeling right there.
right?
And you see those feelings going back to what you said, you saw feelings for a long time as negative. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, even though there's joy, I feel joy.
That you're pregnant or you have a kid or whatever
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
tough to express that without also in combination having the sadness for a friend or grief or something like that, you think you don't deserve the joy.
Yeah.
So, I just feel like feelings were kinda seen negative, even feelings of joy. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is that I didn't wanna feel joy because I felt guilty about feeling joy
Yeah,
because
so
you
the
don't even
feelings
deserve it.
so when you thought of feelings for a long time, especially as a woman, is like you struggled with seeing feelings as negative, and so growing up, if you actually had fear or fear about friends or fear about your job or cheerleading or whatever it was you were going through as a young girl, or not having a boyfriend or any of those things, or pain that some girls were being mean to you, same thing can go, but I'm just talking to you as a woman. You you saw those feelings as negative, and if you tried to express some of those feelings, what would your parents say to you? What would others say to you? What would people in your life tell you?
Well, and this is probably as a female too, maybe a male also, but it's like women would receive a message of, either it depended. If it was like, well, I wouldn't express it. I wouldn't be like, "I'm so scared to go do this thing today," or whatever. I just wouldn't express it. And then because the reaction would be, "Oh, you have nothing to be afraid of. You have nothing to be afraid of. Don't worry about it." And then
So
if
they
I'm
so
sad
in a
if I'm
way
sad if I'm sad about a breakup or something, it's like, "There will be another fish in the sea, don't worry about it," or, um, "They don't know what they're missing," or, "It's not you," whatever. And then
so in a way, I don't think it's any different than when you're growing up as a boy. What I always say is, I was told I shouldn't feel that way. It's like, oh,
Right.
it's kinda almost the same thing they're saying to you, but it's just a little different. It's like, "Oh, you shouldn't feel fearful. You shouldn't feel
Well, and
pain or anger. You shouldn't."
boys and girls were allowed to express different feelings differently. Like, boys were way more accepted when they expressed anger
Yeah.
than girls. Girls were way more accepted when expressing sadness
Them
than
boys.
boys.
You shouldn't cry. You shouldn't do this. It's like,
No, yeah,
and
don't
so
cry. You have nothing to cry about. I'll
it,
give you something to cry about.
yeah. So if you
But
pause for a second and think about it, is like, so the messages that you had for a long time, which isn't different than the messages that boys grow up having, is that those feelings are negative, that they're not all right.
right.
Instead
And
of
then
well,
the problem with that is that you still, no matter what, you still have the physical reaction to feelings.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, even if they're not acknowledged or whatever. So you're still gonna have the even though I would say, I'm fine, it's fine." I might be raging angry. That might be the actual feeling that I'm having, but I'm gonna say I'm fine, and then I'm gonna say it until I actually am fine. But the fact remains that that physical symptom has lived in my body for as long as I'm feeling that, and it's resonated, and it's living there even if I'm saying I'm fine.
Yes, and so our feelings, we we grow up believing, we take it into adulthood. Yeah, we if we apply that to our kids, is this that it's not all right, that feelings, fear or pain or anger or shame or guilt or loneliness or even joy are negative. And when we believe that those feelings are actually negative, we're not gonna know how to identify what's happening. And yet in our body, just like what you said, there's things that are happening in our body when it comes to fear or pain or anger or shame or guilt or loneliness or joy even. We can have tears of joy and other people don't recognize that.
Yeah.
Uh, and they go, "Hey, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm loving crying right now. I'm connecting with this movie, or I'm connecting with this marriage, or, are everything all right?" And people wanna what we've been told, what we've been programmed, what happens over and over and over again is we do not know how to identify what we're feeling. We think it's nervousness, we think it's frustration, we think it's I'm not saying sadness isn't a feeling, but oh, I'm just sad. We minimize, or I'm depressed. We minimize actually what we're feeling because we don't have the tools on how to identify what those feelings are that are driving us.
Well, but and I think you can be feeling deep sadness
And
and
I think it's a feeling. I did say
yeah,
that.
I know.
I did say that. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But it's like we we throw things out there because we don't really know how to identify what we're feeling because we think of feelings once again as negative.
Right, and then it's also, um, a identifying and then figuring out how we've always, because everybody wants to make their feelings go away, however that's gonna happen. I mean, and then when you
But if you think about it, I agree with you. Everybody wants to make their feelings go away. I believe it's because we still believe the message that they're negative instead of
that's what I'm saying.
recognizing that they're just biological.
I know, and so you weren't letting me finish, so what I was gonna say is that so we wanna make them go away, and so we don't address where the feelings are coming from, identify them, and then identify also the physical feelings, what comes up with those feelings. We don't investigate that and identify it and try to work it out. Instead, we say, I'm nervous. I'm frustrated. I've so much anxiety. I have so much, my attention is deficited. I have such major attention deficit disorder. Um, we start to just try to speak our own language about how to make those feelings go away, like, "How do I focus? How do I" or whatever, and then it goes to and I'm not anti-pharmaceuticals at all. I mean, I've taken them before, but it's when we start to try to figure out how to mask or squelch those feelings when it builds upon itself, and I can only say that now as a 55-year-old woman who has watched I just have age on my side, time on my side for all these feelings to pile on each other, all these physical symptoms to pile on each other. I've had an autoimmune disorder disease. I, had some anxiety issues, codependency major issues, which we'll talk a lot about because I call codependency overfunctioning now because what better way to make your feelings go away than to overfunction and do things for other people um, or get involved in other things to take your mind off of things. And so, yeah, I mean, identifying the feelings is it's hard, but it's free.
Yes, it is freeing. It's very freeing. But first and foremost is like I have to recognize before I identify them that the feelings aren't negative. They're just feelings.
Right.
And so when we have this mindset, when we believe that uh, having these feelings that I've listed a few times now of fear or pain or anger or shame or guilt or loneliness or joy is when we believe that those feelings are actually negative, we won't even recognize on how to identify those. And so we've kind of framed it up, and you've done a good job of framing it up of having these feelings because what we tend to do, and I see it all the time in men and in women, it is we believe we're identifying our feelings because we say the word I feel. And then what happens is I see it all the time in my private practice. Women believe there's this mindset that women believe, and this is maybe a stereotype, and you can get upset with me or whatever, is women believe since they use the word feel more than men do, they actually know their feelings. They go, I feel like you don't understand me, or I feel like you're not listening, or I feel like whatever the like is after,
I feel like I'm always at the grocery store. I
yeah,
feel like I'm always
cleaning the house.
cleaning the
I
house. I
I
feel
feel
like
like I'm
I'm
always
always
doing
doing laundry. I feel like
yes,
I'm always folding laundry.
and those aren't actual feelings.
They're not.
Yes, and so what happens is although you're saying the word feel, uh, and this is where especially in marriage, and I think also in parenting or even in relating to other people at work or wherever, is that people say those kind of things, but what they're really trying to say is they don't know how to identify, "Man, I'm fearful that I'm always at the grocery store."
Okay. Now, so you're saying this about women, and I just have to interject right now that this applies to men too, because but men, it's just in a different place. Like I feel like they're not pulling their weight at work. I feel like so and so is not doing what they said they were going to do. I feel like um um see, I'm not a man, so I don't know, but like I feel like on a
No, I agree with
you know what
you.
I'm
I can
saying? Like
no, but I can expand
men
on that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
expand on that.
I mean, I know your original point
I
was that women
yeah,
talk say I feel more.
yes.
And so men don't say it that way.
No,
But
but I was gonna expand on that,
oh,
and
okay.
so
Sorry.
where
Well,
I was expanding on that is, yes, we know that about women, but what happens with men, especially in marriage or in parenting or stuff like that, when someone says, "I feel," they tend to shut down. They're having feelings, and so they shut down. They don't know what to say, and they freeze up when actually they're having feelings of fear or pain, or they might be angry, or they might feel shame. Uh, but they don't know how to go, wait a minute, I'm feeling guilty because I have shut you down. Or, I'm feeling guilty because I haven't helped out in the house. And so what they have those feelings come up, and what men tend to do is they shut down and they don't respond, which then gets this cycle going where no one's really communicating, and then all of a sudden it's this over fixing because we're not sitting there and identifying what feeling or feelings I'm having in the moment. And men don't know how to identify their feelings just as much. I wouldn't say more or less, but the same.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yes, and so I agree with you that the feelings, until we can learn how to identify what you're actually feeling, you will stay stuck in this cycle. You will stay stuck in something that gets you to reacting over the little things, like the laundry, like the grocery store, like whatever the situation is.
Yeah, but so what are some ways to start practically start to instead of me being in the car and thinking, "Oh, I'm so frustrated," and I'm starting to feel that anxiety or the physical symptoms or whatever, like, what do I do? How do I
I
determine?
I like I like to keep it simple, and I like to really look at those 7 feelings: fear, pain, anger, shame, guilt, loneliness, joy. And so when that anxiety, that frustration, the nervousness pops up, you start to go, okay, what what am I actually feeling? It's not nervousness. What's underneath the nervousness? It might be frustration, but what's underneath that frustration? And so begin to ask yourself the question, oh, am I fearful, or do I have some pain, or stuff like that?
Yeah, okay, I think that's right on and what needs to happen, but that takes a lot of practice because I I had to figure out also how to get the physical symptoms to, minimize a little bit or not squelch, but, just like if I'm feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack because of my nervousness or whatever that's really related to some fear or some guilt or some shame, I can even have a wave of shame come over me because of a conversation I had 2 years ago. That might be the difference between men and women too, is that men can compartmentalize things a lot more and never think about a conversation again, really. But women, I can go back 5 years. I can go back to high school and be like, "Oh my gosh, that actually happened." And, it can start a physical reaction in me. Well,
And now that you have the tools, that's where I would challenge you, is now that you have the tools, yes, you might get triggered or activated like we talk about some emotions that come up in this wave like how you just described, but now you have the tools to go, "Okay, what was the feeling I was having in that moment? What are the feelings I'm having right now?"
right, but I kinda have to, take care maybe of the physical symptoms first. It's just I wanna help I think you and I can help people to um I personally like a lot of people like there's so many different ways, like meditation, stopping and breathing, and, prayer and breath prayer, which I love, and I quite love grounding. Like, if I'm starting to feel, like, major, like, nervous system overload or whatever.
I think those are great tools. So, but and let's not get into the
So
tools
okay,
yet,
so
okay?
you just
It
asked
just
you
yeah.
asked me.
Well, you said you brought up
I
your
know because I want to get to what I'm gonna have you explain, though, is that I know you said you have to identify the feelings, but
yes.
when you are unpracticed, I think that
That's getting into regulating. We haven't even gotten into investigating,
I
okay?
know, okay.
And so I agree with you, but first, I really want to hone in on first identifying.
Well, yeah, no, I
And
know.
so
I know.
identifying is the key,
I know. I
and you
agree.
might be having some feelings right now as I'm pushing back.
I am not.
Okay.
Actually, I'm thinking that, in order for people to, um, identify their feelings when they've never done it before, none of us have ever really done it before, and I can say with conviction in both of our practices, I haven't found somebody unless they've done a lot of work, maybe been to treatment, where they can kinda start the process of identifying their feelings, but most people can't.
And
So
that's how come I
and I'm
was
happy
talking about
but I'm talking about thinking too, though, the thoughts and
the
the stuff
yes, but what
there.
first is what I'm gonna say is going back to looking at it's real simple. And we'll put it in our notes and stuff, but there are 7 major feelings. I call them like the uh feelings of the rainbow. There are 7 colors in the rainbow. And so the feelings are fear and pain, anger, shame, guilt, loneliness, joy. When you can identify, okay, what am I actually feeling? Am I fearful? What is it?
So you're saying to stick to the chart for now when you're learning, just stick to the chart because there are other feelings that can spur from those 7 main
Yes,
feelings of the rainbow
like
and whatever. But
pain can be
but
sadness.
but
You
to
know,
begin to identify your feelings when you
when you
need to
see
sit
something
and identify.
interesting internally in you,
Yes.
when you know that that your heart rate's going up or you're
Yeah.
perspiring or you have this wave. I like how you said I have this wave of emotions coming over me.
Yeah.
And so it's like you might have a
You
combination.
can literally have like, almost a laminated business card with the 7 feelings on them, or something. Like, if you are practicing, like a flashcard where you're like, "I'm gonna practice, and I'm gonna identify my feelings, and I'm gonna practice this," and so you start with those 7, and you just
I think you start with those
memorize them and
7
hone in on them,
and really and go, "Okay, what is it?"
and
If
what
I
are
had to
they again?
pick or if I had to decide on 1 or 2 or a couple of them, is like, man, once we get to that place, that's you said that takes a lot of work. It's like working out. When you start to work out, if you haven't been working out in a while, at first it's tough. You have to get disciplined. Then once you start doing it for a while, it becomes more and more natural. It feels awkward at
You
first.
work that muscle.
I've been walking consistently over 10,000 steps a day for a year and a half. But man, that those first 3 months were really hard.
Well, and that's why they say once you start identifying your feelings, you might sleep better at night
Yes, because you're not
because
carrying all that stuff.
it wears you out like working out kinda, like, it relaxes you, like, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
and
it's
so next time we get together, we're gonna really talk about, okay, have you identified your feelings? Now let's investigate it. And we're gonna get into some personal applications of how to investigate what those feelings are
well,
telling you.
name the 7 feelings again, slowly.
Fear, pain,
Fear, pain,
anger,
anger,
shame,
shame,
guilt,
guilt,
loneliness,
loneliness,
joy.
joy.
So glad y'all showed back up.
Okay, yeah, I guess we're stopping, like, but we got a lot to dive into, but
Yes.
okay.
All right.
Alright.
Glad you're here.